Heart-stopping moment, soldier left for dead in the woods, two girls save him at midnight. The moon hung low, a ghostly sentinel watching over the midnight woods. Shadows twisted and danced, whispering secrets that made the air shiver. It was here, beneath the gnarled branches, that a soldier lay cold and alone, blood soaking into the earth, a haunting reminder of a battle lost. Samuel Hargrove was not just any soldier. Rumors swirled about him, tales of bravery that bordered on legend, tales that now seemed lost in the darkness. Then, out of nowhere, two figures appeared. Their curious silhouettes emerged like phantoms from the mist, moving quick and silent through the trees. They were young, perhaps in their late teens, but the determination in their eyes burned like fire. Who were they? What drove them to this dark place at such an hour? The chilling howl of a distant wolf echoed, punctuating the silence as they knelt beside the fallen man. One girl, with hair like spun gold, reached for the soldier, her fingers trembling yet sure. The other, dark-haired and fierce, scanned the tree line with a gaze that could slice through the night. The tension thickened, leaving a taste of fear on their tongues. They felt the weight of the woods pressing in, as if the trees themselves were listening, waiting for something unimaginable to happen. Why had these girls chosen to come here? Were they just brave? Or were they drawn by a curse lingering in the air? They exchanged a glance, the unspoken question dancing between them, was it too late to save him? Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A low growl rolled through the darkness, a sound that could only belong to something otherworldly. The girls froze, eyes wide, hearts racing. What was lurking close by? They had stumbled into a nightmare, a reality twisted by unseen forces. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as they turned their focus back to Samuel, an eerie rustling shattered the quiet. The forest held its breath, as if pausing to witness the unfolding drama. The soldier stirred, a low groan escaping his lips, and for a fleeting moment, hope flared within them. But a crack, a loud, thunderous sound split the air, and the girls exchanged frantic looks. Was it the wind or something coming for them? In that heart-stopping moment, they understood they were not alone. The night had secrets, and they were about to uncover a truth that would change everything. What hunted them in the dark? And would they all make it out alive? The forest erupted into chaos. A cold wind raced through the trees, whipping leaves into a frenzy. The low growl morphed into a snarl, a sound so raw it prickled at the back of their necks. Ilara, the dark-haired girl, instinctively pulled Iris closer to her side, her heart hammering in her chest. "We need to move. Now," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. Iris glanced at Samuel, his face pale and bloodied. "We can't leave him." The urgency of their situation was suffocating, but the thought of abandoning the soldier lit a fire within her. "That thing out there won't wait for us to make a decision." Ilara shot back, her voice trembling yet resolute. But as if to punctuate her words, the growl grew louder, closer. The air felt electric with danger, and they could sense it, something primal lurking just beyond their sight, watching, waiting. With a sudden surge of determination, Iris grabbed Samuel's arm, her fingers digging into his flesh. "We have to get him," she said fiercely, as she started to drag him away from the spot they'd found him. Ilara, eyes darting toward the shadows that seemed to pulse ominously, knelt beside her, helping to lift Samuel's weight. His body was heavy, an unwilling reminder of the danger surrounding them. On 3, Ilara counted, her voice trembling. 1, 2, 3. They pulled, gritting their teeth against the strain, but it felt like they were moving through quicksand. The ground beneath them felt alive with a dark rhythm. Just as they began to inch away, the rustling returned. It was louder now, branches snapping close by, echoing like gunshots in the night. A little more. Iris encouraged, desperation lacing her voice. The sound approached the unmistakable padding of large feet on the forest floor. It felt like every heartbeat was counted, echoing through the stillness. Suddenly, a shape burst through the clearing, massive and shadowy, with eyes that glinted like shards of ice. Ilara's breath caught. "Run!" she screamed. They didn't need telling twice. The girl scrambled away, dragging Samuel's limp body through the underbrush as fear propelled them forward. The beast chased, closing in fast. They could hear its heavy breaths, hot, rancid, and sharp with hunger. Ilara risked a glance back and saw the creature, a monstrous blend of wolf and something more grotesque, hunched low, lips curled to reveal jagged teeth. "Hurry!" she shouted, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm that matched the thud of their feet against the ground. The forest was a labyrinth, branches clawing at them, trying to reclaim their prize. Each step felt fueled by raw instinct, but how long could they keep this up? They were fighting against the dark and the terror that clung to it like a vine around a tree. Finally, they reached a small clearing, moonlight spilling over them like a blessing. "What now?" Iris gasped, panic seizing her. The creature paused just outside the trees, snarling, its yellow eyes narrowing. Ilara looked around for anything they could use. "The old cabin!" she shouted, pointing just yards away. It stood decrepit and half-rotted, an old ammo stash from a battle long forgotten. The door hung ajar in defiance of time. But as they sprinted toward it, the monster lunged, a blur of shadow and malice. Would the cabin hold against such a dark force, or would they be swallowed whole? With a final surge of strength, they hurled open the door and dashed inside, slamming it shut just as the beast's force collided with the wood. The girls collapsed against the rotting door, panting, hearts racing. Behind them, shadows writhed, and they huddled close, whispers in the dark intensifying, the cold fear settling over them like a thick fog. What would come next? Would the darkness claim them, or would they find a way to fight against it? Desperate questions loomed heavy in the air, and outside, the growl returned, deeper and more relentless. The night was far from over. What horrors awaited them just outside that fragile door? The cabin creaked ominously as the impact of the beast's weight rattled through the door. Ilara and Iris pressed their bodies against the warped wood, feeling the thumps resonate deep within their chests. They could hear it breathing, heavy and labored, like a storm gathering force outside. "What if it finds a way in?" Iris whispered, her voice thin with fear. Ilara shot her a glance, desperation fueling a flicker of determination. "It won't. We can barricade it." With trembling hands, they began to scan the gloomy interior, their feet moving quickly over the dust-covered floor. The cabin was flimsy, but the old wooden table stood firm. "Toss that against the door," Ilara shouted, pointing. Iris didn't hesitate, rushing toward the table and thrusting it in front of the door with all her strength. The wood echoed a hollow thud, a feeble barricade against whatever lay just outside. The growl evolved into a howl, piercing the night air with an eerie, mocking quality. It sent chills dancing down their spines, and they recoiled, huddling closer together. "What the hell is it?" Iris gasped, breath fogging in the cold air. They had no time to dwell on the creature's origins. Samuel lay still, bleeding out on the floor, his pale face illuminated by a shaft of moonlight spilling through a cracked window. Ilara's heart twisted at the thought of his suffering. "We need to stop the bleeding," she urged, her voice barely a whisper as panic gripped her throat. "Do you think he can hear us?" Iris asked, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Focus, Iris." Ilara shook her, grounding her in reality. "We can't lose him. If we lose him," her voice faltered. They both understood the gravity of abandoning the soldier would haunt them forever. As Iris ripped off a strip of fabric from her shirt, a loud crash shattered the cabin's stillness. The monster's claws scraped viciously against the door. The wood shuddered under the pressure, threatening to splinter at any given moment. There's no choice. We need to work fast. Elara said, her heart hammering as she grabbed a handful of Samuel's armor for leverage. With every bit of pressure she applied, she felt the life slip away from him. She could barely force out the words, "Iris, hold him up." Iris clutched Samuel's shoulders, their combined strength pulling him toward her as Elara pressed a makeshift bandage against the wound. Blood seeped through her fingers, a hot, sickening warmth that churned her stomach. A breathless moment passed. Elara's brow furrowed in concentration as she fought to keep panic at bay. "Come on, Samuel. Stay with us," she urged, her heart twisting into a knot. "We can't do this without you." The growl outside morphed into a growling laugh, mocking their desperation. Elara's resolve waned, her eyes darting back to the door. "Iris, I think it's getting in." The table creaked ominously forward as the door buckled under the monstrous weight. Just as hope began to slip from their grasp, the door shattered. Wood splintered, flying across the room as the creature forced its way inside. Its eyes glowed, twin suns in the dark, fixating fiercely on the girls. Fear enveloped them, a palpable force sliding deeper than bones. The brute was magnificent and horrifying, a lumbering mass of fur, sinew, and terrible claws. Elara instinctively stepped in front of Iris, ready to shield her from what came next, but then a low, desperate groan echoed from the floor. Samuel stirred, eyes fluttering open, his voice weak but present. What is happening? Suddenly, the beast turned its gaze on him, its primal instincts triggered by the sight of fresh prey. "Go!" Elara shouted, her voice a war cry against despair, urging Iris to move toward the back. They couldn't just stand there while Samuel struggled to rise. They needed a plan, but how do you plan against sheer terror? As time slowed, tension crackled in the air like a taut wire. Outside, the wind howled, and the creature stepped forward, hunger radiating off it. Would they fight, flee, or sacrifice everything to save one? With the shadow creeping ever closer, Elara knew. They had to act now, or become the prey. What would they choose in the face of unimaginable horror? And could a soldier, once left for dead, rise to fight alongside them in this desperate, haunting night? The corner of the moon flickered, revealing glimpses of old memories, but peace was far from grasping. The creature lunged, most of its hulking body blocked by the splintered door. Elara barely had time to react, but instinct kicked in. She grabbed Iris's hand. "Run!" Each pulse of panic quickened her heart as they stumbled back, limbs tangled, desperation clouding their judgment. Samuel struggled to sit up, groaning, his eyes wild with confusion and pain. "Get back!" he yelled, the urgency in his voice slicing through the chaos. But Elara and Iris were already spinning, seeking refuge in the tiny shadowy corner at the back of the cabin. Thudding footsteps followed them. The creature was relentless, tearing through the remnants of the door as if it were made of paper. Elara's breath hitched when she saw the door frame collapse, losing their only barrier against the nightmare outside. "What do we do?" Iris's voice trembled, tears shimmered in her eyes as she pressed against the rough cabin wall, the corners of the space closing in around them. Elara glanced back toward Samuel, who was desperately trying to pull himself off the floor. "Stay down!" she cried, knowing they couldn't afford to lose him again. Her determination surged like a wildfire, igniting a fierce resolve. If they could just find a way to distract the beast, it would give Samuel a chance. The creature's movements were terrifying. As it pulled fully into the cabin, the moonlight glanced off its slick fur, its ravenous eyes locked onto Samuel. "Look at me!" Elara yelled, pushing Iris further into safety. She grabbed a nearby fire poker, its steel surface gleaming against the darkness. "We're not letting it take you." With sudden force, she hurled the poker toward the beast. It clanged against the wall, the sound echoing sharply in the tight space. For a split second, the monster's gaze shifted just long enough for Samuel to half stand. "It worked," Iris whispered, disbelief lacing her voice. Elara could see that he was gritting his teeth, challenging the pain. He wobbled but managed to stabilize himself against the wall, his focus sharp now, scanning for something they could use. Get to the window. We might be able to escape through there, Samuel said breathlessly. But the creature had quickly turned back, unfazed, unfurling its claws with a horrifying calm. It lunged again, lunging straight for Samuel. No! Elara was unsheathing the anger inside her, adrenaline thrumming through her veins as she launched herself forward, the fire poker raised high. She couldn't allow it to end like this. The beast was swift, but in her mind, time slowed. She calculated every move as she approached, all thoughts revolving around protecting Samuel and Iris. The poker struck true, digging into the beast's shoulder with a sickening crunch. It howled in rage, the sound deafening, echoing like a thunderclap that rattled through the cabin. But Elara's victory was short-lived. As the creature swayed back, wounded but furious, its gaze shifted toward her, a storm of wrath building in its eyes. A deep growl emanated from its throat, and Elara felt the air thicken, suffocating them all with impending dread. "We need to go," Samuel shouted, moving toward them even though he staggered. "Get to the window now." Iris hesitated, her feet glued to the ground, her desire to help Samuel battling against the primal fear. "I can't leave you," she cried, voice cracking. "Do it," he barked, snapping her out of it. Elara turned back to the beast. It was poised, waiting for her next move, its breath rasping in the charged silence. As Samuel clawed at the window, it was clear they had no time for second guesses. Then they heard a loud crash, a table, broken in two as the creature lunged again. This time, Elara ducked instinctively, twisting away from its claws. "Samu," she gasped, the chaos drowning out her thoughts as she turned to find him by the window, glass glinting ominously around him. The beast lunged again. They had seconds to break free from this living nightmare, but the danger was palpable, and time slipped like sand through their fingers. Would they escape the creature's grasp? Or was the cabin to become their tomb? In the shadows, the beast's growl rang more ominously than ever, and they knew this was only the beginning. Elara's heart thundered in her chest as the creature lunged, its claws raking through the air just inches from her. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, igniting every nerve in her body. She felt alive, yet the terror wrapped around her like a vice. "Samuel!" she shouted, urging him closer to the window. Iris was already moving, shaking off her hesitation as she dragged herself toward the broken glass. "Go! I'll hold it off," Elara pleaded, her voice trembling as she brandished the fire poker, preparing for another strike. Samuel's face was pale, drenched in pain and determination. "No way. We're not leaving you behind." He stumbled back against the wall, barely steadying himself. The beast recoiled, reassessing its targets. Its eyes, dark and malicious, drilled into Elara with a thirst for carnage. Panic surged through her as she realized its full attention was now on her. Would one hit be enough? "Here." Iris reached for a shard of glass from the floor, brandishing it like a weapon. "We have to work together." Her voice cracked slightly, but Elara could see the fire igniting in her friend's eyes. The creature let out a deafening roar, echoing against the walls. Elara's resolve hardened. Without thinking, she threw the fire poker again, knowing it was a distraction. The moment the poker clattered again, she dove low to dodge the beast's powerful swipe aimed at her head. "Samuel!" she yelled again, urging him onward. "Get to the window." With a gasp, Samuel lunged for the opening, grappling to climb through the broken glass. It was now or never. If they could get through, they could run into the woods and find somewhere to hide. But the creature wouldn't relent, moving with frightening speed toward them. Elara felt her back press hard against the wall, her breath hitching as she looked into the beast's eyes. It was calculated, more than just a mindless animal. In a desperate maneuver, Iris flung the shard of glass toward the beast's face. It landed, narrowly missing its eye but catching its attention momentarily. "Now!" Elara shouted as she pushed Samuel forward. He made it through the window, scraping against the jagged edges, and soon he was pulling Iris after him. "Come on, hurry." Elara hesitated, acutely aware of the creature's rumbling growl behind her. No time. Every moment that passed seemed like an eternity. Spinning around, she harbored just one regret: leaving that poker behind. "Shoot!" Elara grunted in frustration, recognizing the futility of it. She turned, diving toward the window just in time to see Iris reach out a hand, beckoning for her to climb through. But then the creature pounced. Claws caught Elara's arm, dragging her down and plunging her back into chaos. A scream escaped her lips, slicing the night air. The pain radiated like fire, a shock of agony that rose from her shoulder. "No!" Samuel's voice echoed sharply. He struggled to grasp her hand. "Elara! Get out!" she begged. "Don't look back." The beast's grip tightened, pulling her away from her friends. After a fleeting moment of eye contact, fear and despair in Samuel's gaze, Elara knew he was wavering, torn between loyalty and survival. With a surge of desperate strength, Elara clawed at the creature's arm with her free hand, causing it to recoil ever so slightly. Escape was slipping away, yet she had to fight. "Go!" she screamed, her throat burning. "Run!" But the creature's growl vibrated through the very bones of the cabin. It would either be her or them. Just as Samuel was about to pull back, a swift motion in the corner of her eye caught her breath. A shadow darted past them, sharp and sleek. And then a soft thud echoed through the space, followed by an unexpected sound, a gasp of air as something slid into the cabin. "Fight!" It was a voice tinged with urgency, a stranger's voice that knifed through the chaos. In that heartbeat, Elara felt the real fear grip her. Who was this new player in their nightmarish game? As everything fell into dark chaos, one thing became clear: this was not just about survival anymore. It was a fight against fate itself. Would help finally arrive, or would it spell doom for the three of them? What new horrors awaited them in the dark woods outside? Anguish pierced the silence, and the only question lingering in Elara's mind was how far she could push herself before it was too late. Elara's heart raced as she processed the unfamiliar voice amidst the chaos. Her mind reeled even as the creature's claws continued to grip her, threatening to rend her from the world. The shadowy figure that had slipped inside the cabin moved with unnerving grace. In an instant, it had reached the beast. A glint of metal flashed as a knife slashed through the air, hitting the creature square in the shoulder. It howled, a sound twisted with rage and pain, dropping Elara as it turned to confront this new threat. Gasping, she scrambled to her feet, ignoring the searing pain in her arm. "Who are you?" she managed to croak, her voice barely slinking past the weight of terror. "Just another fighter in this mess." The stranger was breathing heavily, dark hair cascading down a dirt-streaked face, eyes narrowed in fierce determination. "We don't have time for pleasantries." A surge of confidence rushed through her. This stranger was here, fighting against the creature, and Elara felt a spark of hope in the storm of despair. Samuel and Iris had already scrambled back from the windowsill, eyes wide with shock and disbelief at the chaotic turn of events. "Get out of here!" Elara barked at them, her voice rising above the growls of the beast. "Don't wait for us, go." "Not without you." Iris cried back, her face pale, but determination flaring beneath the surface. "Then help me." The stranger shouted back over her shoulder, shoving the beast momentarily backward with a well-aimed kick. "We need to distract it together." Elara's pulse quickened at the challenge. "Right!" she shouted, adrenaline surging as she positioned herself by the newcomer. They exchanged a tense glance. Two unlikely allies joined in a struggle against a primal terror. As the creature thrashed against the wall, Elara spotted the fire poker lying on the dusty floor. With a quick movement, she dove for it, ignoring the sharp shards of glass that crunched beneath her. Gripping it tightly, she turned back to the creature, ready to join the fray. "On my count," the newcomer shouted. 1, 2, 3. Elara lunged forward, swinging the poker wildly as the creature lunged toward them. The wooden stick connected with its flank, making a satisfying crack and drawing its fierce attention. "Now!" the stranger commanded, tackling the beast from the side. It was a blur of strength and speed, driving the creature momentarily off balance. Elara followed suit, feeling the rush of power as they both pressed into it from different sides. "Keep pushing," she yelled, focused on holding its attention. Every strike was a plea for survival, every desperate movement fueled by a profound need to protect her friends, but the creature was not finished. With a sudden surge of ferocity, it bucked and threw the stranger aside like a ragdoll. The figure crumpled against the wall, groaning in pain. "No!" Elara screamed, her heart sinking as she turned her attention back to the creature. It was now fixated solely on her, those dark eyes filled with fury and something more hunger. She couldn't let fear take over. She wouldn't, darting to the side, she fended it off with the poker, but time was slipping away. She needed to buy them moments to escape while still holding the fight. "Samuel! Iris!" she shouted. "You have to," but it wasn't just their lives that were on the line anymore. The creature lunged again, forcing her to sidestep, and suddenly, the cabin's fragile structure creaked ominously, shifting against the weight of the chaos. "Let us finish this." The stranger's voice came back, low but resolute. "We can't give up." Elara locked eyes with her, and an unspoken agreement passed between them. Together, they drew on their collective strength, gathering every ounce of resolve left within them. With a final push, they lunged toward the beast. And just then, the cabin shook once more. A crash reverberated through the night, dust and splinters flying. Was that the end of the fight, or was something worse closing in? Elara's thoughts spiraled like a wildfire. As they pressed forward against a doom they had barely begun to comprehend, the only question echoing in her mind was how far they could push against the darkness before it swallowed them whole. Could they survive the night? The creature roared, a primal sound that sliced through the cabin as Elara and her partner lunged forward. Dust settled like a shroud over the wreckage of the room, framing their desperate fight. Every strike she made felt like a gamble, each breath a step closer to fate. Elara swung the poker again, feeling the force reverberate through her arms. The beast snarled, twisting to retaliate, and she barely dodged its furious claws. The cabin walls seemed to pulse with their terror, the floorboards trembling under the weight of impending collapse. "Keep moving," the stranger shouted, scrambling back to her feet. The other woman's focus was fierce and unyielding as she charged once more, distracting the creature with agile dodges and wild kicks. Elara felt a strange kinship with her, two souls fighting against an ancient evil. "Who even are you?" Elara managed to shout as she forced herself to keep up the onslaught, though her muscles screamed for a break. "Not important. We need to get out of here," the stranger snapped. A flicker of frustration crossed her features as she dove under the creature's wild swing. The cabin creaked again, the threshold slowly warping, as though the very wood braces were about to betray them. Elara's heart hammered louder. "What do you mean, get out? We can't just leave. Trust me," the woman yelled back. "We can't win this fight. We need a plan." Panic clawed at Elara's throat. As she exchanged blows with the creature, the dark eyes gleamed with hunger. Was this beast even mortal? Would she even survive long enough to understand? With a sudden growl, the creature slammed its body sideways, throwing Elara off balance and knocking her against the wall. Pain jolted through her, but she pushed it back, rising again. The walls felt claustrophobic, shadows looming larger with every second. Her breath quickened, her resolve beginning to crack. "Samuel! Iris!" she called, heartbreaking. "You have to find a way out." Each second felt like a lifetime as she fought to hold back the beast, struggling to preserve the lives of the ones she loved most. "I can't just leave you," Samuel shouted from behind, his eyes vacant with fear. "Do it." Ilara's voice broke, trembling as she swung the poker again. Desperation mixed with her strength. "Now! Get to safety." In the midst of all this, the beast lunged again, continuous onslaughts testing her will. Its claws barely missed her shoulder, and she stumbled back, fury igniting within her. Just then, they heard a horrific sound, a crack, echoing through the cabin. The roof above shuddered and a rain of dust and splinters fell around them. It was a warning that they were out of time. Ilara's heart dropped. "Plan! Now!" she yelled, barely able to think through the rising chaos. The stranger darted toward the window, checking the darkened landscape beyond. "We can escape through there. But we need to create a distraction." "Okay." Ilara's voice was sharp, fueled by adrenaline. If they could somehow create an opportunity, a glimmer of hope, but how? Before she could formulate an idea, the creature barreled forward, more furious than before. The stranger dashed alongside Ilara, their bodies almost sinking in movement as they fought together, an unlikely duo against something monstrous. "Now!" the stranger shouted. "On 3. Ilara nodded, ready to act, but the sudden shift in the cabin structure finally gave way. Board after board splintered, the walls groaned, and the whole structure tilted dangerously as the creature smashed against the support beam. Ilara felt her heart lurch. Would they make it out alive? And what lay waiting for them outside? With a scream that echoed like thunder, the entire cabin began to collapse, leaving them standing on the precipice of chaos. The exit was clear, but would they escape alive, or would she lose everything she had fought so desperately to protect? And just as the dust swirled in a chaotic dance, the distant sound of something or someone calling out pierced the night. A familiar voice, trembling with urgency, yet it was a voice that shouldn't exist outside the depths of danger. "Stay together." It cried out again, echoing through the now crumbling walls. Ilara's chest tightened. Who was it? Had rescue come, or was it yet another trap in a night of horror? As the structure shuddered and shifted, collapsing all around them, they had to decide: fight through the chaos ahead or backtrack into the darkness behind. The moment had come. Ilara felt the air thicken, almost electric, as the familiar voice echoed in her mind. Could it really be? The uncertainty ripped through her like the creature's claws. Panic gnawed at her insides and she scanned the chaos, desperate for the source of the voice. The creature paused momentarily, its sinister gaze shifting, sensing the change in the room. "Samuel! Iris!" she shouted, urgency clawing at her throat. "We have to go." The cabin continued to tremble, crumbling like a forgotten dream. The walls cracked ominously under the pressure, and dust fell like rain from the ceiling. Ilara took a deep breath, forcing the fear down. They had to reach the window, her only escape. "On 3. The stranger urged once more, her resolve as fierce as the beast before them. 1. 2. Before they could take another breath, the creature roared again. It lunged forward with a ferocity that sent shards of wood flying in all directions. Ilara barely managed to duck as a wooden beam shattered next to her, splinters embedding into the wall. Adrenaline surged, sparking her instincts. She raised the poker, heart pounding with impending dread. 3. They shouted, almost in unison. With a swift motion, they both went forward, attacking at the beast's exposed side. Ilara could feel the warmth radiate off its thick hide as her makeup scored a shallow line along its flank. It howled, thrashing violently and throwing Ilara against the wall once more. Stars danced in her eyes, the pain was blinding. But she couldn't give in now. Behind her, the other woman shouted, distract it. Elara gasped for air. I'm trying. She grasped at the floor for leverage, straining as the creature turned its attention back on her, claws slashing through the air dangerously close, but time slowed. There was a heartbeat, a moment where she could sense that it was caught off guard. Get to the window. She screamed as she arched back, launching herself away to create space. The creature's claws missed her by inches, the air whooshing past her. The strain in her limbs was becoming unbearable, hunger creeping in. But just with a hint of rebellion, she made an impulsive decision. She grabbed a chair, hefting it through the air and aiming for the creature's head. The raucous sound echoed against the warped wood, stunning the beast momentarily again. Now, now, now. The stranger yelled, pushing Elara toward the window. Relief flooded through her veins. They were escaping. With one strong motion, the two of them rushed to the opening, the terror of the beast a mere whisper behind them. But just as Elara was about to leap through, she heard the voice again, louder and clearer. It was unmistakable now. Help me. Her heart flared. It sounded like Iris. Wait. It's Iris. Elara shouted, torn between the instinct to flee and the pull of loyalty. I can't leave her. Your friend is in danger. The stranger shouted in a mixture of panic and urgency. We can't fight this thing for much longer. We have to go. But Elara felt the weight of her choices pressing down. Were they really safe? Her gut tightened, refusing to let her abandon Iris. The walls shuddered violently, a dire reminder that they were running out of time. Where is she? Elara panted as she turned back toward the darkness, scanning through the dust for movement. There. By the kitchen. The stranger pointed, eyes darting nervously. The beast roared again, its fury unabated. Ironically, it was drawing strength from their indecision. Elara couldn't shake the feeling that every second wasted could seal her friend's fate. Let us go. Now. The stranger pulled at her, but Elara remained rooted. I'm not leaving her. The insistence in her voice was raw. Seconds turned into an eternity as reality set in. As chaos erupted anew, and the cabin creaked ominously around them, Elara knew she'd have to make the most impossible choice of her life. Time was slipping away like sand through her fingers. With desperation clawing at her, she took one last look at the crumbling cabin just as a terrifying shadow loomed behind her. Choose, the stranger barked, the monster. Iris. Was choice wrought with eternal consequences before her? And there they stood, teetering on the edge of doom and hope. Would Elara save her friend, or escape the nightmare embracing the world outside? The moment was pressing. Would rescue lead to destruction? Just then, she spotted a flash of movement below, the figure of a soldier, half buried under debris, calling her name with desperate intensity. Elara's breath hitched. Who was this soldier? Would he be a savior or yet another threat in a night thick with danger? The true test of her courage was about to begin. Elara's heart raced as she squinted through the dust. The soldier, his uniform frayed and muddied, struggled to move beneath the wreckage. She could see the urgency in his gaze as he mouthed her name, his voice a muted echo against the chaos around them. Iris. She shouted again, desperation clawing at her like the beast that lurked behind her. I can't leave her. Follow me. The stranger insisted, but Elara could feel the pull of the soldier's calling, a beacon in the storm of despair. With a leap, she darted towards the pile of debris, her eyes focused on the soldier. Hold on. She cried, her hands trembling as she began to pull at the rubble. She could hardly breathe with the weight of all her choices pressing in. The creature behind them snarled, closing in on their position, the floor beneath them groaning in protest. Every second felt weighted, filled with terrifying possibilities. The creature thrummed with rage, as if summoning all its strength for one last assault. It had grown bold, sensing fear. Get back! The stranger yelled, lunging at the beast with renewed fury. The poker struck the creature's side again, and it howled, distracted momentarily. Elara used the chaos to her advantage. She felt the soldier's hand graze her fingers, his grip tight and desperate. "Don't leave me," he rasped, his voice barely rising above the din. Panic coursed through her veins. Who was this man? What had he done to find himself in this mess? "I'm here." I won tea before she could finish. A thunderous crash echoed as the cabin's frame shuddered again. The walls began peeling away, splinters flying like bullets in her direction. Dust engulfed them in a choking haze, and for a split second, all she heard was the pounding of her heart. Then, just as she caught a glimpse of Iris behind the fallen kitchen table, the creature regained its focus, its eyes ablaze with fury. Elara's breath hitched. She had to act, had to save them both no matter the risk. "Stay with me," she hissed, shifting into survival mode. She could hear Iris whimpering, pinned beneath debris yet visibly conscious. It triggered a fierce determination. She couldn't fail her friend. Elara turned to the stranger, who was still holding the creature at bay with wild swings of the poker. "We need to get them both out of here. Now." The stranger nodded, desperation etched on her face, and together they pooled their strength, adrenaline surging through them like wildfire. Elara tugged at one heavy beam, and it rolled slightly, revealing Iris's frightened face. "Grab her. I'll distract it," she shouted. The soldier groaned as he shifted, pushing himself free of the debris, but his movements were slow, dangerously so. "Now!" Elara screamed, tossing anything she could find to draw the beast away. The creature was furious, roaring and rustling through the dust, seeking its prey. "Come on, come on." The urgency, the terror bore down like an anvil, pressing against her chest. As the stranger lunged toward Iris, Elara sprinted to the soldier's aid, her instincts in overdrive. The soldier struggled to rise, his face pale but his spirit unwavering. "I can't let you do this alone," he rasped. "You have to get out of here." Elara insisted, forcing her hands beneath him, urging him to move. He leaned against her, and she felt his weight, a reminder of everything on the line, but just then, a deafening roar erupted from behind them, sending vibrations through the very floor they stood upon. The creature was charging, wild and unyielding, slashing through debris towards them like a freight train. "Run!" the stranger yelled, her voice fierce. Elara felt her heart near the breaking point. She had to make the impossible choice again. She could escape with the soldier but leave Iris behind. With the cabin crumbling around them and the night growing darker each moment, Elara's mind reeled. The monster was almost on them. Would she abandon one life for another? The weight of the world pressed against her, and she had to choose. The question hung in the air, thick with a sense of doom. Just as the beast lunged, claws extended. Darkness wrapping around her, Elara caught a flicker from the soldier. Could he help them all? She stood, shaken but resolute. "Take her. We can't let this end here." But as the creature lunged backward from her scream, a chilling realization set in. Something primal was awakening in the soldier's eyes. What had he been hiding? And as that revelation hung heavy, their fate spiraled dangerously close to destruction. Elara felt the ground tremble beneath them as the monster thrashed against the crumbling cabin. "We have to move," she shouted, focusing on the soldier. He struggled, pushing against the weight of the debris blocking his path, but Elara felt a fierce determination igniting within her. "Take Iris," she urged. "Get her out." The soldier, Samuel, shook his head, eyes fierce. "Not without you," he insisted, his voice a fractured echo of strength. "Please, we don't have time." With one last push, Elara heaved the closest beam aside, creating a narrow path for Iris, who was still trapped under rubble. "Elara!" Iris cried, fear etched into every line on her face. "I can't move." Elara's heart raced. Time was slipping away and the beast was closing in. Samuel staggered closer, wrapping an arm around her, eyes wide with urgent fear. "I can help." He grunted, but the creature's growl echoed, each rumble a countdown to doom. Suddenly, the beast lunged forward. It had gathered enough momentum, crashing through the remaining pieces of the cabin's door like they were nothing more than kindling. The walls groaned again, and splintered wood cascaded down around them. "Move!" Elara yelled, adrenaline coursing through her. With Samuel's help, they pushed another heavy beam aside, revealing Iris. "Yes! There!" Samuel shouted, reaching out to grab Iris's hand, his grip firm and transformative. "Hold on." Iris nodded frantically, anchoring her trembling fingers around his wrist. She struggled upright, and together with Samuel, they pulled her free, pushing away the last barrier stopping them from escaping. "Go! This way!" Elara shouted, shoving them toward the window amid the chaos. She felt a rush of fear surge through her. Would they make it out alive? Then a terrifying howl echoed, and the creature lunged with ferocity. Elara barely dodged its claws. A rush of air nearly tore through her, sending her tumbling back. "Get out! I'll hold it off!" She screamed, fierce storm gathering within her. She would not let their sacrifice be in vain. "No!" Iris and Samuel shouted, but Elara's mind was set. There wasn't time for doubt. As she turned, adrenaline fueling her strength, the creature lunged, its fangs gleaming like daggers. With a fierce cry, she grabbed a broken chair. She swung it with all her might, connecting with the beast's snout, momentarily stunning it. A sickening crack echoed in the cabin. The creature staggered back, growling but furious. "Go! Now!" Elara shouted one more time. "That's an order." Before she could think further, the beast redirected its anger. It charged at her, slamming into the door frame, causing the cabin to shudder dangerously around them. "I'm coming back!" Samuel yelled as he pulled Iris toward the escape route. They would push past her, but Elara couldn't think of that. She needed them to move, to survive. In a desperate attempt, she darted behind the splintered beams, aiming to stay out of view for the moment the creature would stumble. The plan was simple yet risky. She just had to distract it long enough for Iris and Samuel to get away. "Keep moving," she urged through clenched teeth, heart hammering in her chest. She had grown used to the chaos, yet every moment felt like paint peeling away from the canvas of her life. Finally, she spotted her chance. The beast turned again, snarling with rage. Elara took a deep breath, heart pounding fiercely, and lunged one final time. "Over here, monster!" she shouted, waving her hands wildly, pulling its attention away. Samuel tugged Iris through the window, past the jagged glass. "Iris, jump!" Elara felt as if a million eyes were on her, but she remained focused. A split second later, just as the beast turned back toward her, she hurled a broken chair leg with everything she had. It struck true, hitting the creature's shoulder, sending it sprawling back momentarily in confusion. "Go!" Elara screamed as she darted toward the window. She felt the heat of breath on her back, a reminder that time was running short. Finally, she leaped through the window, just as the beast recovered, its furious growl piercing the still night air. Elara landed hard on the ground outside, dirt and leaves bursting beneath her like 1,000 flickering sparks. "Run!" Iris shouted, fear evident in her voice. The three of them sprinted into the thick woods, fear propelling their legs forward. The night air felt electric with a new urgency, the weight of their escape heavy on their shoulders. They ran, branches clawing at them, breaths coming in ragged gasps. Desperation fueled Elara's stamina as they dashed deeper into the trees. Shadows suffocated the light, and the howls of the creature faded, but they had made it together. They paused to catch their breaths, collapsing against the trunk of a large tree, hearts racing as the night wrapped around them like a blanket. What just happened?" Samuel gasped, panting heavily. Elara could finally look at her friends, relief washing over her. Survival, she said, wiping sweat and dirt from her brow. Together. Laughter bubbled into the silence, light and warm amidst the terror. They were alive, and for now, they would face whatever came next together, standing resilient against the ever-present darkness. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink, the woods around them felt less ominous, a renewal, a promise of fresh starts. They exchanged glances, silently vowing to always have each other's backs, their bonds crystallized by the horrors they faced. And somewhere deep in those woods, darkness would always linger, but it would never take away their light. Ilara's heart swelled, knowing the fight might never end, but together, they would conquer any nightmare. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now before we dive into more exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm show the love. And flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this thrilling ending. You don't want to miss what's next. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.